Hi. In this video, we're going to talk about the endowment effect. It's a cognitive bias, and we're going to talk about how it is being used against us to cause us to overpay, and how we can counter that. Okay, so it works like this. We value objects that we own more than a very similar object that we don't own.
Yeah, we've known several people that have done that.
We all do it. And it's easy. I know, we'll come back to this, but it's affected me in terms of doing a garage sale. And you and I have fought over that, right? I mean, in the nicest way, but you know, at a garage sale, you know, I own this stuff. I know what I paid for it, and I know it's, you know, good quality stuff. And when somebody offers me $1 for something I paid $25 for,
or they steal it.
Or they steal it, yeah, when they're not looking.
That too.
So, yeah, different story, but. So another way of saying it is that the amount that people are willing to pay to get something is less than the amount that they will accept to part with it.
Okay, so say that again.
The amount that somebody's willing to pay to get something is less than what they'll now accept to part with it.
Okay.
So in other words, they can go buy a concert ticket for $100.
Okay.
Okay. And then they find out they can't go to the concert. So now they need to sell it. Okay. With the endowment effect in place, they value that. They hear, especially they hear that other people are selling, you know, scalping tickets for $200-300. Now, how much are they going to sell that $100 ticket for? They're going to try to get $200 for it, right?
Oh,
because otherwise they feel like a sucker for not getting that, even though they only paid $100 for it, and they are now in a tight spot because if they can't get it sold before the concert, they're going to lose $100. So that's the endowment effect.
Live with the.
Well, they're making a choice, but this is the endowment effect affecting their thinking.
Okay.
And it's a system. Cognitive biases, reminder.
Yeah.
Cognitive biases are a systemic error in judgment. Okay. They're built-in mistakes that we all make especially when we act in haste, when we go on autopilot, and there's an emotional component to it. So think about something like a coffee mug. We talked about that. I'm reading some notes here in case you see me looking down. They might be willing to pay $2 for the mug that's sitting on the shelf. But if you give them the mug and they drink a cup of coffee out of it and you get a chance to handle it for a few minutes, and then you say, you know what, I want to buy that mug back from you. How much you sell it to me for? It's guaranteed to be more than $2. In fact, a study in 1990 showed that they charged 2.5 times on average. For something that they owned versus they didn't. And the ownership doesn't have to be very long. I mean, yeah, we're talking about me in the garage sale, you know, something that I've owned for 10 years and it, you know, it's my favorite one and all that. That's, so there's a lot of sentimental value in that.
Right.
But that doesn't fully enter into this equation. You can give somebody something and 5 minutes later ask for it back and still that endowment effect. And in fact, they don't even have to own it. So this gets to how it is being used by marketers, okay? They create psychological ownership, okay? Think about the car dealership.
Oh yeah, you look so pretty, that little Ferrari.
You go down there and you sit in the car and you get to play with all the little controls and you feel the leather and you adjust the seat. You know, you smell it. You get to take it out for a test drive.
Oh yeah.
Now, here's where we got. I don't want to say got because we still feel like we got a good car. But do you remember when you bought your first car, your first Lexus?
Yes.
What happened?
I don't remember.
You left your car at the dealership and you drove home in that Lexus, and they said, just take it over the weekend. Keep it for a week if you want to.
Thank you so much for letting me do that, by the way. And no, they never got it back, except they kept calling me going, Connie, seriously, you got to bring it back so we can finish up the
psychological ownership.
Great car.
Okay, that's how
best car.
That's how it worked on us. So another thing, what about customization software where you can go on a website and you can build your perfect thing, whatever that thing is. Again, it could be home design, it could be, like remodeling and picking your colors, or it could be building that car, picking your color, and then they show you the car in exactly that color.
Right.
And then you pick all your options, and as you pick the options, they show you
we have
the
a
result.
nephew who loves to do
So
that.
that's one form of psychological ownership. Another is touching stuff. Think about the Apple Store. Okay, you get to go in the Apple Store and you can spend all day there if you want, touching all the stuff, playing with the computers, playing with everything. You can use it. You can try all the apps that are built in. You get to play with it. And one study showed that just being able to touch a product increased the perceived value by 24%.
That's why big box stores or whatever, clothing and things like that, we go in and touch.
Yes, you're more willing, once you've had that experience with it and you take try it on, a little bit of psychological ownership, you're willing to pay a higher price for it. Now, obviously there's everybody's got their limits, but it depends on that, that sense of bond that you form with that project, with that product, whatever it is.
That gotcha.
So a third way that marketers use this bias is language that implies ownership, such as your next car.
Oh, true.
Or they use it, again, one of the articles I read talked about the example, Apple says, your photos, your something, your fonts, your photos, your way, your. Just expressing that, seeding that, planting that seed.
That it's already mine.
That it's already yours. Exactly.
Now I just have to go and pay for it.
Okay, the last example I've got is, did you ever have a puppy follow you home?
Oh my God. We had how many?
Lots. And,
Really?
I had one when I was a kid too. So that's the endowment effect in action in us and in marketing. Now, how do you counter it?
How do you counter that?
Well, first,
do I have to be quiet and sit and not react?
It's closely related to the loss aversion,
Right.
But it's adjacent, but it's not the same. It's not part of it. But again, similar. You kind of have to notice what you're feeling, right? So you got to watch out for that bonding effect.
Right.
You got to remind yourself
I bond quick too.
that there are other options, right? And that kind of comes into the car thing. When you go to one car dealership, if you've already made up your mind, you only want this one thing, well then you're at a disadvantage. But if you're looking at equal utility, if you're really thinking about something more, maybe more for work or this less personal, you're more able to distance yourself and say, well, yeah, this one's okay, but there's another one down the road that's just as good. They both got 4 wheels, they both got a steering wheel, they burn gas, or whatever.
We got caught in that with a car deal.
So you got to keep in mind that you have other options. Right. Don't get, basically don't fall in love. Same with a stock. And we talked about stocks recently in another video. That's the loss aversion. So one of the things they tell you in professional investing is don't fall in love with the stock.
Right.
You buy a stock. Yeah, you learn about the company. You take a little bit of ownership in that company when you buy the stock. Mm-hmm. But you need to be very unemotional or unattached to that company if that stock is not performing, because you bought that for a specific reason, not because you wanted to just own the company. Okay, so another thing you can do is know the market value of whatever it is and anchor yourself to that. So as best you can before you start, go back to the coffee mug. If you can buy 1,000 coffee mugs for $2, then you're not likely to pay $4 for one that's just like the others or very, very similar, just because it's got a particular logo on it or something else.
Don't get caught in the sales pitch.
And the other side of that is if you're a seller, market price again. So if you're a seller thinking about the concert ticket and trying to overprice to not miss out, think about selling a home that you've lived in and you love. Okay, so the tendency is, and I'm sure that realtors will agree, the tendency is that people want to charge much more than market price for their home because of that personal attachment. That's this endowment effect.
And then they don't want you to paint and anything else.
They don't want to believe the market price. I didn't. When I had to lower the price of a house by $50,000, I certainly didn't want to believe that was the case. Right. But it becomes so that then the third thing is explore the opportunity cost of doing versus not doing the deal.
Right, and so, that's what we had to take into account.
And that again is, on either side. You look at, okay, if I do this. If I do this, I'm not doing something else. So what is it costing me not to do that versus doing this? And should I slow down? Do I need to compare my options better? The other side, as a seller, if I don't take this offer, how do I know when the next one's coming in?
Right.
And many times in real estate, the first offer is the best offer.
Okay.
And so that's the endowment effect.
Cool.
How it's being used and what to do to counter it. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us, and we'll see you in another video.